welcome to this week's version of Negro Please. I am your host, Dallas Scott, co-host Hollywood Huff over there. What we do here at Negro Please is just kind of, we like to bring a different type of perspective to common views and actually just want to kind of shatter your sensibilities. This has been an interesting week.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk to our producer Quan today. Do we have what happened was? What had happened was that, well, let's just say this. Like, if you don't ever take L's, that means you're always winning. And I don't even know how to start with this dude, right? Daniel Hernandez, a.k.a. Takashia 6'9".
Look,
I don't even know how to start with this dude. Like,
look, this guy, and this sounds crazy, but I am so intrigued and into this story at this point. It's better than anything I've ever seen on TV.
To me, he's more famous for, up till this point, he was more famous for being on The Breakfast Club with Charlamagne and them, talking about, I don't take L's. I don't take L's. I never take L's. I'm going to win in this game. I don't take L's. Did he take an L this week or did he take a W? I
mean, for the situation being what it is, I think he's right. He's still winning. But here's the thing. So if you lived under a rock and have no idea what's going on, so Takashia 6'9" is a rapper. He's one of these new rappers who we have no idea where he came from or what he's about or whatever. And
calling him a rapper is
calling him a rapper is very loose.
He's famous for rapping, but what he does, like, I'm not a fan of his artistry. Let's say that. Okay?
Right.
I'm not a fan of his artistry.
And he's very artistic. So look.
Looking like Rainbow Bright with tattoos. He's very artistic.
Seriously. I mean, so you look at this guy and everything about him says he's fake. He's not real. He's not a real gangster. He makes gangster rap music, right? And he is probably the embodiment of what people look at when they say, oh, rap music is violent and we hate it. And everything that's fake about rap and fake about, what people say, like, oh, these artists aren't real gangsters and all this stuff. And that's who we all thought he was, this super just fake gangster, right?
Right.
Then we find out that he's probably, as far as gangster and doing gangster stuff and committing crimes and robbing and shooting people, he's probably the realest rapper out right now. Like, this dude is in the street. This dude is in the streets.
But that's almost crazy, right? Because he is the guy who, like, he almost seems like he is a television character, right?
Yeah.
What's the movie with Malibu's Most Wanted?
Yeah.
He is that dude, right?
Right?
He's the guy that just it looks like the white guy goes up there and says a bunch of slang terms, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's a rapper, maybe," but we just think he's a joke.
Right.
And in real life, he's actually out there smuggling drugs and
robbing people
and
shooting
doing
up places
stuff.
And putting out hits on folks. I mean,
he's really doing that. This is a real life thing, and so now he gets arrested.
Right.
And this is where part of what we want to do, what you and I have talked about on this show, is that we want to change the culture of the black community, right?
Right.
And the fact that we need to be held responsible for some of the things that we do.
Right.
And this is one of those things that I think in the black culture and poor culture, we need to just stop doing. Yeah. This whole idea that snitching is a bad thing, in my opinion, is ridiculous.
Right.
So, more background in the story. So, everybody's been seeing the news this week. He snitched on everybody this week.
Yeah.
But what part of the previous story was that the FBI actually has tape of these conversations because they were under surveillance where they're going to kill this kid anyway.
Right.
Like, this gang is like, we're done with him, essentially. We're going to kill him.
Right.
The FBI brings us to him. You're under arrest. You're going in for racketeering and drug charges and blah, 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 blah. He's got a list of charges a mile long. He's like, whoa, hold up. Stop. Wait a minute. I was there on the grassy knoll. Like, what do you want to know, sir? Give me a pen and a paper, and I will tell you what you want to know. So he is basically snitched on everybody. Cardi B, Jim Jones, like people we've never heard of before.
Bruh, he done told them how to get to Sesame Street. He done told them the secret ingredient to the KFC chicken.
Yes, he gave all 11 secret herbs and spices. He's told on everybody and their mama.
He know how to make Popeye's chicken sandwiches. I mean, he basically anything that he had any information on, he gave it up.
Yes, if you jaywalked in 1993 and he knew about it, he told on you.
Yeah,
I'm actually okay. I'm not mad at him for this for a couple of reasons. These guys are going to kill you, and the fact that we're going to get into some more of this, like they were going to kill him. Like this is
right.
There's evidence to this that they were done with your services were no longer useful to them. They were going to kill you.
Right.
He's like, whoa, hold up. My life's more important than yours.
Right.
I got some stuff to tell here.
Yeah.
All right. This thing in poor culture and black culture that we don't snitch.
Yeah.
To me is absurd.
Right.
And the reason I feel like it's absurd is because your first priority in life should be to you and to your family.
I agree 100%.
Now, there's the thing that, like, if you snitch, there may be some repercussions to your family. But those are some things. First of all, you should never be in that situation where you are can be a snitch to something.
Right.
Like, if you should be protecting your family and not being part of that to begin with.
So that's a big thing because I was speaking with somebody and they tried to say like, oh, well, it's different because he chose this life. So let me clarify, like there is a difference between being a snitch and being a witness.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Where he was not a witness, he's definitely snitching because he was a part of this, which he brought his family and everybody he cares about in that life when he joined that life, right? But at this point, that life has turned against him. Maybe he turned against the life. Doesn't matter. These guys, like you said, threatened to kill him. They were going to kill him, right? He's
unbeknownst to him. He didn't know this until the FBI brought him the tapes and was like, hey, these are your boys, right?
And this wasn't
You're
just
protecting them.
This wasn't just the FBI like on First 48 sitting down saying, look, man, you want a cigarette? You want some pizza?
Right.
You know what I mean? No, they brought him actual evidence of, look, these guys are going to kill you. Like, we've been watching you. We've been watching them. We got all y'all on tape. You caught. You facing 75 years by yourself, with or without them. However, if you beat this, they going to kill you. Like, they want to kill you. You might even die in jail. Right. And then they bring you evidence of, and you hear these people who you've worked with talking about, yeah, we're going to kill you.
Yes, and how we're going to do this. And
yeah. So, at this point, he has to protect himself.
Right. And
he's no longer a part of that gang anymore because when the gang says they want to kill you, then that's it.
Right.
You know, so I'm for it. I will say, look, even in the mob or the mafia or whatever, they got to think about killing snitches too. So it ain't just a poor thing or a black thing. It's kind of like a gang thing also, or a mob thing. But I will say in black culture, because there are a lot of people, especially on social media, they ain't never been in a gang. They ain't never robbed nobody. They ain't never been about that life, as they say, right? And they're all ridiculing this guy for snitching. Everybody's making fun of him. But at the same time, it's like, well, wait a minute. This guy's cleaning up the streets right now.
Right.
There's how many people are in this gang that he's told on
that are coming off the streets
that are going to be off the streets
to make the streets safer.
And the FBI's got evidence of them already committing robberies and at least attempting to murder people.
Right.
So how many times have these guys shot up a place where there were kids there, family members there? Maybe people got hit, maybe they didn't, who didn't have anything to do with this. And now, if nothing else, 5, 10 guys are about to come off the streets because of his testimony. Because clearly, he's not going to be doing anything else. He's going to be under FBI surveillance the rest of his life, probably.
According to this article that came out today, which is actually, to me, hilarious. Excuse me. He is actually thinks that he's still going to be a rapper. He thinks that he's going to still, like, he is, according to this article from the Washington Post, he has declined that he does not want a protection when he comes out of jail. He will hire his own bodyguards. But now he has other members of his family saying, whoa, wait. Now you're protecting yourself. What about us?
Right.
And here's the problem with this snitch culture as it is. First of all, shaming somebody for protecting themselves and their families is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Because, especially in a situation like this, and let's be realistic, and I hate to sound like this, but if he's here in 2021, we'd all be surprised, right?
Right.
If somebody doesn't find a way to get to this guy in the next 2 years, like, or from, hell, while he's in jail or something. Like, If we woke up tomorrow and the headline was Takashi 6ix9ine killed in prison, nobody would be surprised.
There's no surprises.
Right. Nobody would be like, yeah, no.
I also know there's 100 snitches on every block right now.
Right.
There's plenty of snitches walking the streets.
They don't call them confidential informants. You know, you're right. They're snitching.
I mean, and there's even been they're talking about there are other guys who have actually come forward or who have been working with the FBI for them to even get the information that they got up to this point to even get Takashi 6ix9ine himself arrested and get all them wiretapped and whatever else they.
And my problem with this not snitching thing, is that you are allowing the culture to stay in your neighborhood, right?
Right.
You are not doing anything by you sitting back and watching this go on and not saying anything. And the police come to you. It's one thing to not like run to the police and say, hey, I saw this happening. Let's be honest. If it's a violent crime, you probably should be doing that. If you see a drug deal going down, there's a million drug deals going down.
Just walk away, mind your business. Nobody's going to fault you for that.
Right. Now, you see somebody being murdered or shot up in the street and you all of a sudden can't say nothing. You're allowing these people who committed this violent crime to do this again because they're walking the streets, because you don't want to be a snitch.
And this is a huge thing because it's so embedded in the culture that if one person says something, they feel like they're being alienated and they're standing by themselves.
Right.
Here is something that I guarantee you will not happen. If the entire community stuck together and you have, let's just say you have a block, and on your block you got a couple hundred people, right, that live on this block. Maybe 10 of them are some hardcore thugs, right? They're in gangs, they sell dope, they do whatever, right? They are not going to kill the other 90 people on that block if those 90 people are together. They're going to be forced to either go to jail or move.
We've seen this happen in communities across the United States, urban communities, Latino communities, black communities, poor white communities, where somebody in the community has stopped and said, this isn't going to happen here.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it snowballs and you know what, you're right, we're not going to let this happen here. And somehow miraculously, not in a week, not in a month, but over a time, this block gets cleaned up because these offenders realize that they're not welcome here.
Right.
You're going to make it uncomfortable for us. We're going to make it uncomfortable for you. Every time we see you, we're going to call the police. Every time we've seen the history, you've seen it in TV shows and movies. It happens in real life with the nosy neighbors who every time they see that car, this car circled the block 3 times. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when the police do come, they're like, yep, it was that guy over there with that white Monte Carlo SS, you know.
Right. Yeah. And this is what annoys me is because that person is labeled the snitch. Right. You know what I mean?
And ostracized by the community.
And ostracized, right.
But when they're the one person who's trying to protect the community and do something good to progress the community.
Right. See, I have kids. I want them to be able to play outside in the street. I want to be able to sit on my front porch and just watch traffic go by some days. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I want to be able to go out in the front and know that I can wave at my neighbors. Nobody's going to think I threw up a gang sign. You see what I'm saying?
It's funny you said that, right? Because like my father's family's from backwoods South Carolina. And all the time growing up, like whenever I would go down there, it would just drive me crazy because there was nothing to do out there.
Right.
They live in the country. And I'll never forget, like a couple years ago was my grandmother's 80th birthday. And I went down there for my grandmother's 80th birthday, and I'm dreading going down there, right? I love my grandma. We're going to have when we have the party that day, it's going to be great. Everybody's going to have a good long. But the other 5 days I'm there, I'm going to be in the country doing nothing.
Right.
But there's a point there where all of a sudden I was like, the adult in me kicked in right now. Right. And it's funny because like one of my cousins, we're sitting on a porch in the middle of nowhere listening to music. And one of my cousins is giving my dad a haircut. You know, and I'm looking around, there's not a car in sight. It's just country as me. And I was like, there's something to be said for just being able to sit on your porch, watch the sun go down, have a little drink in your hand, and just chill out and listen to crickets all night. Like there's something
and not have to worry about a thing.
They don't worry about anything else.
Exactly.
There's no drive-bys coming by. There's no car accidents because there's one road and it's it's an amazing, it's almost unsettling. It's so peaceful, right? Coming from the city, especially a city like Las Vegas where there's so much going on all the time, that when you have that peace, it's almost like unsettling because you're waiting for the next thing to happen.
Right.
And I feel like when you grow up in the inner city, we don't really know what that peace is to be able to just sit outside and chill and relax and not worry about the kids. It doesn't matter where you live or what community you live in. Those are always possible things. You know what I mean?
I live in a good neighborhood. And I say good because I don't recall ever even seeing the police just roll down my street, looking for something.
Right.
There was one day, and this happened actually a couple months ago now. I guess somebody stole a car. They parked it a couple houses down, jumped out and took off running. And I come home and a policeman came up to me and he's like, "Did you see who parked this car? You ever seen this car?" And I'm like, "Man, when I just got here, when I pulled up, y'all was already here. I didn't, I didn't see, I had no information to give them, Right. And other than that, I've not seen the police in my neighborhood. But there was a time I remember I was working on my car in the driveway and this guy in a truck pulls up. He comes basically right in front of my driveway and just stops in the street. He doesn't pull over. He doesn't park. He just stops. He's looking around. So at this point, he's got my full attention. He's maybe sitting there for 10 seconds, but why you stop in front of my house and what you looking for?
Right.
He didn't look like he's looking at addresses, like he's trying to find a house. He just kind of stopped and he's looking around. And so he's got my full attention because I don't know, this guy, maybe he's lost. Maybe, he has no bad intentions. Maybe this dude is crazy and he wants to kill me. Anywhere in between. I don't know, So I stop working on my car and I stand up and I'm looking at him. And then he looks at me and I'm like, "Everything okay?" And he drives off. I have no idea what was going on. But I'm going to say something because it's like, "Hey, bro, you stopped in front of my house. I got my garage open. I got stuff in my garage. I don't know if you casing my joint. Like, I don't know what's going on." Right. So a lot of people will never understand what it's like to grow up in a neighborhood. When a car pulls up like that, it's trouble.
Yes.
When somebody pulls up and they just stop, usually somebody's about to get out or a gun's going to come out, and drive-bys, like, these are things that just happen. Sometimes people just jump out of the car and they jump somebody.
You say a lot of people won't ever know that. I feel like there's a lot of people who do know that and won't ever know the other side of that. The piece of being ignorant. Yeah. I don't want to say ignorant because that's a better word. The bliss of not knowing that something bad could be about to happen there, right?
Right.
Because some of us grew up in areas where that if a car stopped in front of your house, you probably ran in the house, right?
Yeah.
Like you didn't want to be outside for what was going to happen next.
Right.
And then there's others of us who are like, "Well, that's strange."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it just, your first mental instinct is, that's strange.
There was never a thought of something bad that could happen. It was just, that was weird. The guy just drove up, stopped, and then drove away. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people I feel like live in that range of, that was just a weird thing,
right.
And
I feel like Takashia 6ix9ine might have grown up in that, that strange neighborhood, not the, I need to run into the house neighborhood.
Yeah.
And now he's brought himself to the community of, I need to run into the house.
Yeah.
This is real. Like, I really can't find a whole lot of background on this guy. I mean, he just really just kind of popped out of nowhere a few years ago. But apparently, like, he joined this gang, the 9 Trays, because he thought it would help bolster his rapping career. And apparently it has.
Yeah.
And now he's probably one of the most infamous or famous, depending on how you look at it, rappers in the history of the world. But then you see people like, and this kind of bothers me, people like Snoop Dogg on Twitter shaming him for being a snitch.
Yeah.
Right. And then, the comparison to Martha Stewart. Like, first of all, this is such a bad... Martha Stewart, like, anybody who knows her case, she had nobody to snitch on.
She wasn't facing 75 years either. Because if she was, trust me, some names would have came up. Somebody's name would have came up.
Martha Stewart was going to Martha Stewart prison. All right, like, let's be real. Like, she was probably in there baking cakes and teaching the guard. She probably ran the kitchen in prison, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you ever seen Orange Is the New Black? She was the woman that ran the kitchen. Like, she had all the goodies. Like, because if I'm in jail and Martha Stewart comes in, hey, girl, what you need? How many cups of flour you need today? We're gonna help out. We're gonna
right.
Celebrities in jail don't face the same type of situations that normal people in jail, because they don't go to normal people jail.
Right.
They go to federal cushy prisons. Right. Tekashi, he's gonna do some time. He's probably gonna go to a federal cushy prison, but it's not a woman's prison like Martha Stewart.
Right.
It's a different type of joint. Again, nobody would be surprised in 6 months if we walked in and this kid was gone, and like, oh, okay, yeah, no kidding. But that's gonna start a whole new thing, right? Because then is somebody gonna snitch on whoever snitched on him, or is it gonna be like, we know who did this, but we're afraid.
Right.
This fear that is instilled in us for snitching. I'm doing the air quotes here. Yeah. You should be afraid from not in a certain extent, because now again you're allowing these people to be continually in the community. So this time you didn't get hurt. But what happens the next time?
Right.
What happens the next time they decide to go off and shoot some people, and your kids are playing in the front yard.
And what about
or
people,
sitting in the house watching TV?
And what about people who did get hurt?
Right.
How many times do we see the most heartfelt part of like gangster movies is when you see the rival gang do a drive-by and kill somebody's little brother who was on his way to college.
Ricky.
The worst. I was just gonna say the worst part of Boys in the Hood when Ricky gets killed. Yeah. The one kid
for minding his own business, drinking some milk.
Yeah. Who's got the one kid who's actually got something going for himself is the one who gets killed.
Right.
And how many times have we seen this over and over and over and over in our communities? But we still want to live by these codes. Yeah. Look,
who started these codes? Right? Like, what was it? Was it black gangs trying to imitate mob cultures? Like, you know, like, did we see this stuff on TV and we're like, ooh, so we got to be like them? Like, that's how we secure a gang.
You know, I can tell you how gangs started. I can't tell you how they went from being positive community protection into we're going to kill somebody because they got the wrong color on. I don't
that's
know.
Leadership, right?
I don't know. I mean, it definitely is something in the leadership, right?
That's leadership.
I mean, it's definitely something happened there in a period of time because when the Crips and Bloods first got started, they didn't start just to battle with each other. They started to protect their own neighborhoods. They did things for the community. And then all of a sudden they became a bad thing. So, and it's one of those things where it's like, look, if we're going to turn the culture around, let's turn the culture around. We can't on one hand, like, because I love the Killer Mike show on Netflix, and they have the one episode where the gangs they actually start like a business, you know, they talk about all the positive things that they do, and I think that's great. I would love to hear the name Crips or the name Bloods be affiliated with positive things and businesses and community outreach and doing great things, but we can't turn the culture around on that aspect. And then at the same time be like, but you know what, though? They still sell dope in the hood, and we're not going to talk about that part of it.
So we're live right now on Facebook, and Aaron has this thing. He says there's a big difference between wanting a safe community and turning in all your friends to save your own ass after you get caught. And basically saying that he calls him snitching 6ix9ine, you know, is not doing the right thing in order to end a cycle of violence and crime. He's telling because basically he's a punk and he's going to get in trouble. And I agree with that partly, right?
Right.
But the problem is he put himself in that situation to begin with.
Right.
Right. And and this goes back to my earlier statement that as a community, you should not be putting yourself in a position to where you're in that situation anyway for your family. Like above the community should be second to your family, right? Like your family should be, if you have kids, you have a wife, a husband, like, and maybe it's just me because I have kids and it's just the way I was brought up by my parents. But like my first thought in life is always protecting to my kids, right?
Right.
There was a time a few years ago, God is my witness, where somebody got ignorant with me. And the only reason, I don't even know like what hit the switch in my head that made me think this. It was the day before my son graduated high school.
Yeah.
And there was a point where I was literally about to commit some
violence. Some violence. All right.
And the only thing that came to my head that just snapped is like, if I'm in prison tomorrow or in jail tomorrow, I'm going to miss my son's graduation. Right. I have waited 18 years to watch my son graduated from high school. Like, I'm not going to miss this because of this fool.
Right.
And I had to walk away.
But here's my thing to that. And I agree. Takashia is doing this to save his own behind.
Right.
That's not my problem. My problem is us shaming Takashi like he's doing something bad. We should be behind him saying, yes, snitch, give more names. Because here's the thing. I want my kids to be able to turn the radio on and listen to music and then not come to me later and say, Dad, what are the Trey 9 Bloods?
Right.
Like I don't if Jim Jones is a blood, get him off the streets. If he's not, fine, let him do what he's doing. If Cardi B is only making music, great. But if she's really a blood, get her off the streets. If she's contributing to crime, I want her to be accountable for that. I am a huge advocate of holding people accountable for what they do. If they do good things, great. If they do bad things,
there are consequences.
They should not get a pass just because, well, she put out that hot album. So who cares if she's sponsoring the Bloods? You see what I'm saying? Like, If she's technically doing the same thing Tekashi 6ix9ine was doing, which is basically bankrolling all their crime sprees, you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Then she should also be off the streets. So I get it. Yeah, he's only snitching to save his butt. Congratulations. However, I'm not going to shame him for that because in the process, he's getting more people off the streets, and we should be behind that. Unless you're one of the people who's about to be off the streets. So either you're with the Bloods or you're not.
Him getting those 5 people off the street will get those 5 will get another 5 apiece. So now you have 25 people off the streets.
Well,
and it kind of snowballs into something else, and you end up with all these people off the street who shouldn't be on the streets. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that there will not be crime. All right. And that I'm not naive enough to know to think that, I mean, I've seen it. I grew up in the hood. I mean, I'm just real. Like,
yeah,
we were super poor when I was a kid. Like, I've seen when one guy goes to jail, the next guy steps up. But maybe if we can get the next 3 guys, then maybe the organization is like, we don't know where to go because we have no leadership in it now. So maybe it starts to fall apart after that.
Well, when you look at, I mean, look at how it works even in the stance of our military. You chop the head off of a terrorist organization. Yeah, the next guy steps up. But when you start taking out of the top 10 guys, you take out 6 or 7 of them, all of a sudden there's enough chaos, or at least there's a time period where they have to start rebuilding. And in that time period, you have an amount of peace. And now, guess what? We've seen that before, and now we know we can combat it. So what do? We're now ahead of the problem instead of chasing the problem down and just constantly nipping at the tail of it. And so there's just a mindset that has to change with snitching and cooperating with the police because they haven't always been our friend, and all police aren't straight up and down. So there's a lot of things culturally that has to change. But this is a huge thing to me where it's like, look, if you're in that life and you don't want to snitch, fine, don't snitch. But to the rest of us who are not in that life, we should be all for snitching. You should want people to be snitching. I mean, this shouldn't be a joke to you.
Let's speaking of snitches, I don't even know what to call this woman. Candace Owens. You have the meme there for us, sir? Mm. If you're watching us on the live stream or on YouTube. Candace Owens. Woosah. Okay, so the House is having a hearing on white supremacy.
Right.
And the Republicans invited Candace Owens, who's a black woman, who used her time to say it isn't actually an issue. Well, that white supremacy isn't an issue. That it wouldn't even rank in her top 100 issues, and that the real issue is black on black crime and lack of masculinity in men. Woo!
I instantly start grinding my teeth. Like when I hear black on black crime, I just get annoyed.
We'll look at that. Let's talk about Candace Owens. Right? Candace Owens, farmer. She recently got married here a couple weeks ago. She is the black poster child for the Republican, right? Like, you have to have. She's the house Negro. I don't even know how else to say this, but she is. Like,
yeah,
she's that one black person that you can put up on stage, and everybody else thinks that she speaks for all black people.
Right.
But let me tell this is interesting. So, I really wish Basic Trina was here because Candace Owens grew up in the same area that Basic Trina did. She's from Stamford, Connecticut. She's a graduate from Stanford High School. In 2007, while a senior in high school, Owens, who was African-American, received threatening racist phone calls that were traced to a car and the 14-year-old son of then Mayor Daniel Malloy was present, okay? So the son of the mayor is texting her racial slurs. Her family sues. They sue the Stanford Board of Education in federal court, alleging that the city did not protect her rights. She won $37,500. When in 2015, Owens was the CEO of Degree 180, a marketing agency that offered consultation, production, and planning services. The website included blogs, frequently anti-conservative and anti-Trump commentary. So here's what happened to Candace Owens. She wasn't making any money being a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
She's a attractive young black woman.
Mm-hmm.
Puts on some pantsuits and says, you know what? It's funny because her thing was called Degree 180. And she makes a complete 180
Right.
And she's the rah-rah person for
Right.
she's the black rah-rah person for the Republican Party, right?
Right.
Like has really no other than the fact that she's black and she'll say whatever Republicans want her to say.
Yeah.
She has no, basically, she's us, right? We have a show here that is based on our opinions,
Right.
right?
Right.
And the facts is we can find them on the internet,
Right.
right? So she just basically gone out and said, hey, being Democrat wasn't good for me. So I'm going to be a Republican because I can make money doing this. And I'm just going to spout a bunch of opinions, and they're going to take it as truth because I said so.
Right.
Right. I like to think, try to back up, some of our statements and at least do some research and Google stuff. I mean, Google is a hell of a weapon in the world today. I mean,
right.
So, I'm laughing because we're going to get to a situation, one of our comments later, and I'm going to talk bad about somebody who I follow on Facebook, and that person is now watching our stream. So, they're going to know that I'm talking about them when I go with this. So, she has no qualifications other than this is her opinion.
Right.
As a black person, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are giving our opinions as black men on this show. Does that mean it's the gospel and it's the truth? No. These are our opinions based on our relative experiences, right?
Right.
But we didn't change our opinions to make money.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like when I came to you and I said, I want to do this show. And you were like, why? And I was like, because I believe that you believe what you believe in.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that was part of our conversation was like,
right.
This isn't something where we're trying to if we make money off it, great. If we don't, great. It's you know what I mean? We felt that there's a need for a voice to help change our communities.
We're not paid spokesmen.
Yes.
This is the thing.
Right.
Yeah. So
so now she's doing this, and people, mainly white people, are like, see, black people, they know that the black on black crime exists. Black people know this because this one person who's a paid representative,
right,
and shill says this. This is the epitome of Uncle Tomism to me. Like, it is just the absolute. She would be the worst person failed as a human today if we didn't have somebody worse. You know what I mean? Like she would be on the verge of that.
Yeah.
Because she's not only failing her community, she's not only failing her race, she's failing people in general by changing opinion based on money and status.
That's
what politicians do. So that's why politicians in general are failures. You know what I mean? Like, because they change with wherever the dollars are coming from.
Right.
Candace Owens does not speak for me. She doesn't speak for anybody that I know in the black community.
There's the things that she says, and I feel like a lot of, whatever good or bad you want to say about Donald Trump, his best quality is one-liners. He is very good at saying something in 5 seconds to get everybody's attention and have everybody talking, where most politicians take 10 minutes to speak. And in 5 seconds, he can say something that'll get the crowd going crazy. And a lot of the people who you're starting to see in the Republican Party are starting to pick that up. Even a couple of Democrats are starting to grasp it. Maybe it's the culture of just America in general. Maybe it's social media culture. I like to call the America we live in now is fast food culture. Everybody wants now, results. You got to have my attention in the first 5 seconds or I'm done. You see? So Donald Trump is great at that. And what she did here is basically give you a couple headlines. She gave you some icing and no cake. There is literally nothing to support the things she said. Like there are no stats unless you go make them up, unless you find the alternate truth or the alternate news or the alternate facts or whatever you want to call them. There's nothing to say to support what she said. And part of it, the biggest thing where she says, white supremacy is indeed real. And this is a quote. White supremacy is indeed real, but despite the media's obsessive coverage of it, it represents an isolated, uncoordinated, and fringe occurrence within America. Which is basically saying, yeah, white supremacy exists, But it's just a couple little small things here and there where if you want to break it down and argue this point with anybody who's ever studied history, white supremacy is not just something that white people do or white people say to black people. It's systematic in the way that this country was built. Now, our forefathers in this country, they did some great things, but
because white supremacy, like, I think there's this white supremacy isn't just against black people. Like, and I think that when we say that people think that it's against white supremacy means against black people. It's not against black people. It's against all non-white people, right?
Right.
It's so like, it's not a thing that just black people deal with, right? It's a thing Latinos, Asians,
right,
other non-cleansed white people. You know what I mean? Like, it's a. So I think we need to make it clear that when we say white supremacy, we don't just mean against black people.
Right.
White supremacy is against all of the pure blood.
And even a lot of times what people don't understand is sometimes it's even against white people. It's even against poor people. You see what I'm saying? Like I don't think it stops there. And it's not to say that like, oh, well, you know, every president was a part of the KKK or something along those lines. That's not necessarily what it is. It's something deeper in our system, in the way that our system was built. Like, you have to understand, we're only 40 something years from Jim Crow laws, or 50 years or whatever away from Jim Crow laws. Those laws were made to benefit white people. It's not a coincidence that when we were supposedly separate but equal, white people sat in the front, black folks and anybody else sat in the back. White people got the clean seats in the restaurants, and if you weren't white, you got to go through the back door and sit in the dirty spot. Or if you went to a hotel and you were a person of color, you slept in the basement, or you just weren't allowed there at all. You understand? Like, when
you say people of color, you don't mean just black people,
right?
Like,
exactly.
I feel like there's this thing that like that white racism is only against black people, and it's not.
Nah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's, and I feel like at some point we have to make that known and realize, like, it's not just black people who are saying that there's white supremacy and white racism. Right. We have the loudest voice right now.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's going to change really soon, especially considering the Latino population in America is overtaking the black population in America.
And it's something, to me, it's something that's so widespread for somebody to say, this doesn't really exist. You guys are just making this up. You got a couple social media videos and you're running with it. I think that's just reckless and crazy. It would be better for somebody to just say, you know what? I don't want to talk about that. And to back this up with saying, you know what? There are bigger issues facing black people, which is, you guys are homosexuals. Like, you guys, there's a lack of masculinity. You guys aren't men. That's the real problem in the black community. And it's like, well, time out, because
how can you be thug and not masculine at the same time? I don't understand.
I don't understand how the same group of people who think smoking a joint turns a black man into Super Hulk, which is kind of the whole like thing of, well, you know, he had marijuana in his system when the cop shot him, can turn around and say, well, there's so many of these guys who aren't masculine. Like, look, either we're the most violent, brutal human beings on the face of the planet, or we're soft. Like, yeah, we're showing up with bonnets on our head.
Right.
I mean,
you can't say both, right? You can't say one day. And I'm gonna go off on this, and I'm gonna try and keep this short. This is, I despise this term, and I know you do too. This term, black on black crime. This term actually didn't exist until the 90s when there were riots in LA, and it was made up by the media because of all the stuff that was going on in the riots in LA, and it was in black communities, and it was blacks against blacks. So they said, but in reality, if you go back and watch the footage of that, it wasn't blacks against blacks. It was blacks against everybody else who was in the community, whether it be the Koreans or the white. Like, Reginald Denny wasn't black. He was a white guy, driving a truck. Like, that violence wasn't black on black. That violence was in the black community against all those in the community who weren't black. They attacked the liquor stores that weren't owned by them, the furniture stores that weren't owned by them. To say black on black crime is the biggest misnomer ever, right? Because per FBI statistics, I believe like 90% of all crime is committed within 3 miles of a person's home.
Something like that. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I lost my statistics page here, and I have time to look it back up. So to say that, oh, it's black crime happens in your community.
Right.
When white people commit crime against white people, you don't go, oh, that's white on white crime. When Asian people commit crime against other Asians, you don't go, oh, that's Asian on Asian crime.
Right.
You don't go, that's white collar crime on white collar crime when white people steal from rich white people.
Right.
Right. It's just, crime is just crime. If a black person commits a crime against a white person, you don't say that's black on white crime. If a white person commits a crime against a black person, you don't say that's white on black crime.
Right.
It's just crime.
Right.
The color of somebody's skin does not tell what make the crime more reprehensible. It's just crime. Crime happens in people's communities. Why do we use the term black on black crime, but we don't use those other terms? It was a term you can Google black on black crime. It'll explain to you. They will explain to you when I believe it was 91 it first came out, and then 1995 after the OJ hearing, or not the OJ hearing, the OJ and the Rodney King trial.
Yeah.
That's when those terms became more prevalent in the LA media, and it just kind of took over the United States.
Right.
Crime is crime. It doesn't matter who commits crime against the other person. It's just crime. And until you start labeling things white on white crime, Asian on Asian crime, black on black crime does not exist as a thing.
And when you look if you look up the stats for white on white crime or Asian on Asian crime, like you said, you will begin to find that the numbers, percentage wise, are not that far off.
No.
Meaning, like, let's just, because I don't know the exact number. So let's just say black on black crime, meaning for every black person that's killed, 90% of those crimes, 90% of those murders are committed by another black person, right? The number for white people was like 86%.
Right.
The number,
right.
Like, until you get to like Asian is the only time the number drops to like 20%. Like, Asian people only kill each other like 20% of the time. Everybody else, black, white, Latino, whatever other ethnicity you can come up with, was all between like 75 and 92%, something like that. Because, like you said, crimes happen within your vicinity. Most people kill people not because they're hitmen and assassins, but because the dude down the street pissed them off. And they got into a fight and they beat him to death or shot him or stabbed him or whatever it may be. So when you look at those numbers, when you look at the stats, you'll find that they're all very close. But people always try to use that. The only time black on black crime is brought up is when they want to discredit a black person being killed by somebody else.
Right.
And they say, oh, why are you outraged by this black kid being killed by a white cop when black people kill each other all the time? Everybody kills people all the time. If we were outraged by every single murder, we'd be outraged 24/7. Like, no. But the reason why we are outraged, in most cases, the reason why we are outraged, especially in the black community by murders, is because an injustice is either happening or about to happen.
Right.
Because in most cases, black on black crime, a black person is dead, that black murderer is going to jail for a long time. The reason why we're outraged by police killing black people, because they're not going to jail. Right. If they went to jail, we'd stop complaining about it. Because
hell, if they even lost their jobs, we'd probably be all right with
I know,
it, right?
right?
I mean, like, you're not even losing your job. You're shooting kids in the back, and and you get to go to work. You're killing a guy with his hands in the air, standing by his truck, and now the woman is a consultant. Like, who is she consulting? Like, I don't want to give her name because it just despises me.
Right, but so that's my point. Is like, yes, murder and crimes happen. And there's never a good time for it. There's never going to be a murder where we're like, okay, like, we understand what happened. Like, even when the police is in a justified shooting, we're still just like, man, that sucks. Like, because to me, somebody still lost their life.
Did you see the thing I tagged you in the other day? They might have taken it down. So somebody posted a thing, and it's crazy because I felt so bad for this cop because I feel like he did everything he could to not kill this guy.
Yeah.
The guy only had a knife.
Right.
But there was a point where, like, I mean, they literally walked for a mile.
Yeah.
And he's just like, stop, dude. Like, sir.
Yeah.
You know, the guy's surrounded by cops. And at one point, the guy takes off running at the cop. The cop fires probably 5 or 6 shots.
Yeah.
The guy goes down. He gets up and he keeps coming.
Yeah.
He actually gets a hold of the cop. Like, the cop is shocked that he's still coming. He gets a hold of the cop. He gets behind the cop. He's got the knife to the cop's throat.
Yeah.
Another cop then shoots him.
Yeah.
That's a justified. I mean, this cop did. I felt this cop did every possible thing he could to not kill this guy.
And
this is a white guy too, and I
right.
feel and I don't want to lump all cops together because I'd like to believe that this cop would have done the same thing if the assailant had been black or Latino or any other age. But he tried everything he could to not shoot this guy.
Right.
In the end, there was nothing else he could do. And in fact, he shot the guy, and the guy kept coming at him. You know, and there was nothing like they had no idea.
And that's why our police officers are armed. Like
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
Like that person, black, white, no matter who he is, average people could no longer deal with him. So the police were called because they get called when a situation is escalated to the point where reasonable people can't solve this situation, right?
Right.
I will never be upset when I see a justified shooting. There is still an amount of sadness because a life is lost. I've never seen somebody die and think, that's great. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's always a sad thing, but sometimes it has to happen. Sometimes there was no other way. It was either he was going to kill me or I was going to kill him. And I get that.
So this is, sometimes this is my favorite segment of the show. And then days like today, this is my least favorite segment of the show.
Yeah.
This is, you failed as a human. So I think we got a video for, you failed as a human. Come on. We don't have the.
Did you have the video?
Not the video.
I was
we
going
have
to
a
say
graphic for this.
All
right.
Oh,
anyway,
I don't know.
Here's who failed as a human this week. All right. Oceanside, New York. Young kid by the name of Cassine Morris is stabbed to death by a kid by the name of Tyler Flock, who's 18 years old. The worst human are the other 6 or 7 teenagers who stood around with their cell phones and recorded this happening. There are 2 thought processes here, right? I've seen people post this on Facebook that these kids shouldn't have helped because they might have been stabbed. These kids, they protect themselves. It's the flight or flee thing, right? Like
right.
if you don't want to get stabbed, you don't jump in and help. Okay, and I get that. But the absolute least you can do, you have to do as a human being, is dial 911 or find an adult for help.
Right.
These guys are fighting over a girl. This kid was stabbed, and dozens of people watched.
Right.
And videotaped this. Didn't call 911. Hey.
Yeah.
There's a fight over here. They didn't call the teacher. Hey, these guys are fighting. They all took out their phones and recorded this kid being stabbed to death. In my opinion, they should all be charged as accessories. We talked about this last week about how we have devalued human life.
Right.
That because we want to sensationalize everything, and how people take the lives of animals over humans and stuff.
Right.
This is a prime example of that, how we devalued this 16-year-old kid's life. It wasn't worth it. It was more important to watch video. I have somebody who I watch, I follow. You ever have those people you follow on Facebook just because you want to see what craziness they're going to say next?
Yeah.
Like you're not, you're kind of friendly with them, but like you really want.
Yeah.
They frustrate you so bad you want to delete them.
Right.
And then, but this person on Facebook at one point had a video of a man beating a woman, and I was like, "What are you doing? Call the police."
Yeah.
She's like, "Well, somebody else will." You don't know that somebody else will because they're all doing the same thing that you're doing right now.
Right.
They have their cameras out and they're filming this. And I'm not even against filming this because there might be some good evidence in there for the police can use later. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But before you film, the first thing has to be you have to call for help. You have to dial 911. You have to yell for a principal or a teacher. To stand around and watch this person being stabbed. Essentially, these dozens, it says dozens of teens watched.
Well, it says that this kid apparently was told to fight this kid because he was walking this girl home and her ex-boyfriend didn't like it.
Right.
So he basically challenged them to a fight or whatever in some parking lot or down the street from the school. And it says over 50 kids, over 50 teenagers gathered to watch this fight, right?
Yep.
So on one hand, I understand, okay, they're teenagers in high school, everybody wants to see a fight, and they don't understand that, you know, a person could be 2 punches away from death at any moment, 1 punch away, right? Kid goes down, the guy kicks him in the head hard enough, breaks his neck. Like, kids don't understand that, right? But at some point, this kid pulled out a knife. And at that moment, you have to stop and think, we got to call the police. That would be my first instinct, even when I was a teenager, because I try to put myself in these kids, you know, shoes to say, well, wait, you know, before I take my 39 years of experience on this earth and try to put it into a 15-year-old, what would I have done in that situation?
Well, we have a comment here. Ryan says, well, couldn't some of the kids stop before it got too bad? And I would think, yes, at some point, like, we've been in schoolyard fights.
Yeah.
At some point, somebody jumps in and is like, all right, guys.
Yeah, break it up. Break it up. Right.
It's over. You win.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
you win. Let it go.
Yeah,
like,
it's
you know
over.
what I mean?
Right.
How do you get to the point where, and I haven't seen the videos yet, and I'm assuming at some point they'll probably release, but kind of part of me doesn't want them to be released because I don't want to see it.
I have no desire to even see it.
Because I feel like, and mentally, I see this image of these kids tussling and all these kids standing around the circle, and now this guy pulls out a knife, and this kid has nowhere to run, right? Because he's surrounded by all these kids. So where is he going to run to?
Right.
You know what I mean? And again, like, I really don't want to see the video, but like, that's my mental imagery, and I might be completely wrong about that.
Right.
But how does, and no, somebody else, how does this kid, Tyler's friend, be like, whoa, bro, come on, man, now you've gone too far.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we've all been in fights as kids, and at some point, somebody was like, okay, he's had enough. Or, all right, this isn't the Karate Kid, No Mercy here, right? Like, we're not in that.
Exactly.
Even the Karate Kid, Johnny's friends were like, okay, Johnny, he's had enough.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? like where is the one person with common sense here?
And this goes into, you know, on one hand, it's who raised these kids. Are kids not taught the things that we were taught growing up anymore? Which is, you know, when somebody's getting hurt, or if there's a fight or something, you go tell somebody, you go talk to somebody. I think this goes into the whole, like, even with like what we talking about with Takashia 6ix9ine. Is this part of even the no snitching culture that we have here, where these kids they're filming it, but they're not going to call the police. They're not going to go get an adult. They're not going to go get somebody involved who could stop this, because then there's other kids who are like, man, we want to see a good fight. You know what I mean? Then there are kids who are maybe somebody's like, well, now this 18-year-old who showed up to fight a 16-year-old, now he wants to fight you because you snitched on him.
Probably about 8 years ago, 9 years, before I moved to Vegas, there's a story out of Florida where there was a car accident, and when the police officer arrived on the scene, same thing. Everybody was sitting around filming this car accident. Nobody actually went to the car to try and open the door to help the people out or help the people out of the car.
Right.
The car then catches on fire. I've never seen a police officer in my life so emotionally distraught. And he was so upset because when he got there, nobody was trying to help these people.
Yeah.
And they end up burning to death in this car. And he just kept, all they did was watch. All they did was watch. All they did was watch, is what he kept saying about the people standing around. There's probably a dozen people around, all got their phones out, watching somebody burn to death.
Right.
At no point did anybody, and I understand it's a car fire, but apparently the car wasn't originally on fire. They were just stuck in the car, and then a little fire started, and then I don't know the exact details. I just remember seeing the cop on TV crying because nobody helped these people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, this cop was obviously, he wanted to be a cop because he thought he was going to be able to help people, and then he watched other people just watch these people die and made no attempt to help whatsoever. And by the time he got there, you know, he could get his fire extinguisher out. It was too late. But so this is not the first time that this has happened.
No, not at all.
And I feel like we have to have some accountability for stuff like this, right?
Right.
Every teen or adult or whoever was there, in my opinion, should be charged as an accessory to murder.
And I can't even argue with that, because more likely than not, if this 18-year-old who showed up to fight, if he came with friends, I'm pretty sure they're going to be investigated as well.
Right.
If me and you, if I said, look, this guy down the street's been giving me problems, I'm about to go put hands on him, and you come with me, and I done told you that, and I go down there and I beat this guy to death, and you do nothing to try to stop me, you're an accessory. Even if you just stood there and watched.
Yep.
You didn't have to film it. You didn't have to say anything. You went with me to commit a crime. You knew that's what we were going to do. They knew they were going here to fight. It's
legally,
not
I don't even have to know. If we walk by a grocery store and you're like, hey, hang out here for a second, I'm gonna walk inside. You rob the grocery store and come out. I'm an accessory for being with you legally, right?
Right.
I'm going to jail too. Even I had no idea what you were doing in the grocery store. You said, hold on, hang out here. I'll be right back. You go in and rob the grocery store, come out. We go, you like, run. And I run. Now all of a sudden, I'm accessory to a crime.
I have a cousin, well, my mom's cousin, did 10 years because he gave 3 guys a ride home who had just robbed the bank.
Didn't know they robbed the bank?
Didn't know they robbed the bank. He was driving down the street. He saw them stand on the corner. They was like, hey, what's up, man? Give us a ride real quick. All right, hop in. They jump in the car. Police pulls them over. Oh, these other guys robbed the bank. He's like, I literally just picked them up on the corner and give them a ride. Well, now you they getaway driver.
We all know people who are in jail for drug charges and they didn't know there were drugs in the car. I mean, it's sad, but it's the truth. I mean, and I don't know what Oceanside, New York police are going to do, but I feel like at some point, somebody has to make an example of people. And part of me feels bad because these are kids and it can ruin the rest of their lives.
Right.
But part of me is, I don't care that it ruins the rest of your lives because this kid died. He doesn't have the rest of his life.
He doesn't have the rest of his life. And I think that's a big thing that people miss. It may sound like we're being harsh saying, oh, these kids should be punished for videotaping this. Can you imagine your child dying, being stabbed to death because he walked the girl home?
Yeah. And
a bunch of people, over 50 people, stood by and watched him be stabbed to death.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what that's like? Not just losing your kid, but knowing that if just one person had stepped up, your child might have a chance.
Yep. One person.
One person. Yeah. That's all it might have took, just one. But there are 50 of you who clearly could have overpowered this one kid.
You don't even, like, all somebody has to do is say stop.
Right.
Right. Just long enough maybe to get this kid's attention that I might be doing the wrong thing here, right? And obviously this tired kid, I know I'm saying obviously, like, I know, but like there's got to be like to be 18 years old and to get to stabbing somebody because somebody's walking home with your girlfriend, like,
you know,
is he right in the mind? I don't know.
This was something that happened to me probably like 8 years ago now, maybe. And I don't like talking about this because I feel like what I did was the right thing. And everybody who I've told about this, they try to make it seem like I'm some superhero person. And that's not what I tell this story for. But me and Christina, my wife, we go to Sally's Beauty on Decatur, right? The beauty place.
Here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, in Las Vegas. It's right by one of the high schools. I can't remember what high school it is. And so she goes in and I'm sitting in the car waiting. And I hear all these kids like yelling and I'm thinking, okay, you know, kids are getting out of school, whatever. But then I see this one kid come running around the corner. He's booking, you know, he's running hard. And it's got my attention because I pay attention, you know.
Said booking like it's a 1970s police show, but go ahead.
Right, you know, so booking. Yeah, so that's how old I am, right? So he's moving, right? And then this other kid comes around the corner and catches him and, like, you know, hits him in the back of the head, right? So this kid who hit him in the back of the head is clearly bigger. And so my first thought is, oh wow, these kids are fighting. Let me break this up. This is how fast it's happened. I'm in a car. The car is running. They're just on the other side of the parking lot, right? I put the car in drive to right where they are, okay? In that time, I have not taken my eyes off the kid who got hit in the back of the head. He turns and tries to fight the guy who's in front of him. He's outmatched. The guy's bigger, he's faster, he's stronger. The guy's putting moves on him, and he's up against a wall too. Now, 2 other kids are basically helping the guy who's winning, and they're jumping this kid. So now I was already going to break this up. Here's the problem. And the 3 seconds it took me to drive from one end to the parking lot to where they were, a whole mob of kids come out and they're just screaming and yelling and watching. Not one person tries to break this up. I jump out the car and I literally yell, "Hey, stop!" Like, you know, I'm yelling and they take off running. The guys, by this point, they've hit the kid. He's unconscious on his feet. I've seen a boxer punch drunk.
He's punch drunk.
He goes down. They get like 2 kicks in before he runs off. He's unconscious. He doesn't feel these kicks when he's on the ground. When I jump out the car, not just the fighters, but the whole crowd runs. Okay? I get over there, the kid's on the ground shaking. He's on his back. His hands are, you've seen a boxer get knocked out and his arms are kind of stiff. Like he's literally unconscious. There's blood coming out of his nose, on his mouth. I can't tell if his lip is busted or if he's got some damage, you know?
Right.
I pull out my phone. I get over the kid. I call 911. And he's mumbling and something. I'm like, dude, just relax, right? So I call 911. You know, they show up. In the meantime, while I'm sitting here, more kids come around the corner. So now I'm ready to fight these kids because I don't know who they are. And I'm trying to protect this unconscious kid that's on the ground. And they're like, "Oh, this is our friend." I yelled right at these kids, "Where were y'all at 3 minutes ago?" Right. You know what I mean? Like this is your friend. You know he's over here unconscious. Where were you when he was getting worked? These are his friends who watched him. Basically, they stood in the back of the crowd as he called a beat down. And then all the other kids, not just the ones who beat him up, but the other 10, 15 kids who came around the corner, they're rooting for this kid to get beat up by 3 kids. And 2 of them were sizably bigger than him. Which
makes you wonder how many of these 50 kids or so that were watching were friends of Cassine Morris, right?
Right.
Like, how many of these were his friends that were there, right? The girl that was there, like, we've seen it on TV, we've seen it in real life, where there's the douchebag boyfriend who doesn't, you know, he's obviously going to be a psycho when he grows up, and, you know, he doesn't want his girlfriend talking to the guy. We've seen the movie a million times.
Right.
It happens in real life. Otherwise, there wouldn't be movies about it over and over again.
Right, of course.
Where's the girl that steps in and is like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
Like, stop. Like, and again, we weren't there, so maybe somebody did, and maybe it didn't matter.
I mean, it's possible somebody could have did that. Then he pulled out a knife, and they backed up like, "Whoa, he's not about to stab me." You know what I mean? So I mean, it's so much could have happened that we weren't there, but we know what happened. What happened in the end didn't have to happen.
It didn't. And not with 50 people standing around.
Exactly.
And I've looked through like 3 different versions of this story on the internet, different news departments, and nobody says that the police were called. Nobody, like, none of these are like, "Oh, the police were called at X, Y, and Z time."
Right. And they just didn't get there fast enough or something. Right. Yeah.
There's none of that.
Yeah.
Nobody yelled for a teacher. Like, there's none of that.
Right.
You videotaped a kid being killed and didn't do anything about it. And you feel like, how do you, like, I couldn't sleep personally. Like, if you were one of the kid, like, and now I'm sure some of these kids are going to be afraid to turn the video over to the police, because the police need as much video as they possibly can find here, right?
Right.
Because they need evidence. And one of the things the police, I would assume, would do, and I would hope they would do, is start looking through the crowd, the videos, seeing who's in the crowd, who was there,
who was all there, right?
Because these people, they need to be held accountable too,
right?
Like, I can't even talk. This one just bugs me so bad.
Yeah.
Like, all right. You have been watching Negro Please. I am your host, Dallas Scott. My co-host, Hollywood Huff. We'll be back next week. Hopefully we'll have something a little lighter to talk about. The craziness of this.
Hopefully we'll have a funner week.
And hopefully Takashia 6ix9ine will still be alive and we have more to talk about with him. Thank you again for watching Negro Please. Catch us on all things social media at The Negro Please.